Welcome to NeverTheLess podcast with Bidemi Mark-Mordi, a show dedicated to organic leaders and leaderpreneurs. Today, you would learn how to discover your essence and live more powerfully.
Welcome to the NeverTheLess show, a show for organic leaders and leaderpreneurs. My name is John Namaka, and I have with me our main speaker, Pastor Bidemi. And in this month, we have been talking about success. In our first episode, we talked to you about defining and redefining success. And in this episode, we're going to be talking to you about the true meaning of success. So, Pastor, what is the true meaning of success?
Hey, John, how are you? You're so serious. But I know the subject matter is serious. Let's just have fun.
Okay.
The true meaning of success. You see, if we took a poll today and I asked what is success, someone would say to me that success is fame. Another person would say to me that success is to have a lot of money. For someone else, success is power. For another person, success is to be able to marry 7 wives and have 49 children. So like we agreed last episode, success is relative to the one who's living the life. Yes?
Yes.
But I want to focus on the fact that success is not fame, success is not power, and success is not money. The reason why this cannot be the real meaning of success is because I have personally seen people and done life with people who are wealthy. I mean, when it comes to paper money, they are loaded. But they are some of the most unhappy people on earth that I know. If success were money, these people ought not to have those issues. So the mere fact that they have those issues tells me that you cannot confine success to money. Does that mean that successful people don't need money? That's not what I've said. I'm just saying that it cannot be the be-all and end-all of what success. Money, of what success is. Neither is fame. Have we not heard of really popular actors and actresses who've committed suicide?
Yes.
So if success was fame,
why
then
should
what
they
happened?
commit suicide?
So if you ask me, if success were power, have we not known very powerful people, presidents of the free world, who become people who are ultimately taken to the cleaners because of a flaw, a character flaw? If success were any of these three things, all of these things, scenarios I've given, will not happen. So what is success? In my book, success is to become who God called me to be. It's as simple. It's again, like I said, I'm not very sophisticated or smart, yes? No, I just like to keep it simple. But I think that if you distill this, you'll find that this is huge.
Yes, it is.
Success is not fame. It is not money. It is not power. It is just becoming who God called you to be. And so if someone that's watching us today has been called by God to be, or listening to us has been called by God to be a housewife, or what we call it today, a homemaker. A homemaker. If they understand that that is the parameter of their call and they live it well,
they're successful.
Again, remember that what we're trying to cure is this undue and unwholesome pressure that people are put under simply because they want to meet up something that's we term ideal. There is nothing like ideal success. Success is just success, depending again on the details of your life and how you are living it. So the second thing that I would say that success is that success is value. What value do I give off of the understanding of who God has called me to be? The world may call you successful, but if your value does not impact me, and doesn't impact anyone I know positively, how on earth are you a successful person? Because isn't all of this about what we live, serving God and serving humanity? Isn't that what this is about? That's what it is about.
That's what it's about.
This true success also isn't always achieving or actualizing a set goal every time. in 2 Kings, I'm going to go to the Bible. In 2 Kings chapter 6, if you read from 24 to maybe 30, you will see the account of 2 women. There was a famine in the land, and they decided to kill their children and eat them. So they set a goal.
Now I understand.
Do you get it?
Yes.
They set a goal. And the first one brought her child, and they killed this child, and they ate. What was the goal? To assuage hunger in the interim. So that was completed. But the point was, even though they achieved that goal in that interim, they became hungry again.
Yes.
And when they became hungry again, it became the turn of the second woman to bring her child. And at that point, she had this pang of motherly love or something, and she changed her mind. How is that success?
So even though they achieved the goal,
yes,
but
it wasn't successful. So as long as it's not everything that, because I landed it makes it successful. We've talked about, somebody went to the moon, but they didn't make it back.
That's funny.
So the goal doesn't always make success. So just to say, I arrived there, does not mean that you are successful. Because unless where you arrived at gives off value beyond you, it is not success.
So now it makes sense when you said money, power, fame, these are not the parameters of success.
No. The parameters for success are twofold. Who did God say you are?
And the value.
And the value that you create out of that person. That's what makes you a success.
A successful person.
So, when men say, therefore, that the end justifies the means, we talked about this a bit.
Last week, yes.
This is a rather thought-provoking example that all doesn't always work. The end does not always justify the means. Or let's go again to the Bible and look at the man Samson. What did God call Samson to be? He called him to be the one that put paid to the harassment of the Philistines.
Yes.
But after Samson died, the Philistines rested for a bit and they came back. Because within that call were parameters. Don't do this, don't do that, don't do that. So even if the Bible says at his death, he killed more Philistines than when he was alive. He didn't do the things that made for his character. Don't do this, don't do that, don't do that. He broke every of that commandment. Do you see it? So for someone who doesn't understand success from the angles that we're looking at it now, you say, Samson was a successful man. Person. I mean, he was strong. Just imagine how many people he killed. And this is something that the Bible said took out like 800 or 1,000 people with the jawbone of an ass. And now we're being told that he killed more people, which means obviously he killed more than 1,000 people at his death. And yet, in my book, no. How many of us want our children to end up as Samson?
No one wants that.
Why?
Because in the end, he lost his life.
That's
he died
in
a funny way.
No, who will not die? We will all die. But I don't want to die like Samson. Do you see it?
Yes.
So achieving the goal sometimes is not success. Knowing the goal also, you can't. Samson's case, he knew the goal, which was why he made it his final thing. Just let me take these pillars and take these people down. But the in-between, the instructions that make the man who is gone his way to success, he did not obey those instructions.
Exactly.
So even if he didn't die, he still was less than a man. Because the sum total of a man is to be able to know his parameters and follow those parameters through. He did not.
Like you defined it for us last week, you said success is knowing the immovables.
Yes. The immovables. Samson had no parameters.
At all.
Anything went, in fact, it looked like everything that they told Samson should not move was what Samson was determined to move. So how do you separate the character of a man from the things that he does? He built a school. With what kind of money? Drug money. How? At least he built a school. Oh no. Why he built the school was he was laundering his drug money. He wasn't building a school because he was a generous person. Let's be clear. Do you understand it?
Yes.
So these are the things that we're looking at. So when you take a look at Samson and you take a look at the account of that lady, what you find is that success is not as simple as we think it is. And it is still very simple. It's very simple, but it's not as simplistic.
Simple.
So just because somebody was driving beside me and had this massive, shiny car, does not mean that he's a better person. Because usually when we say someone is successful, we look up to them. We suggest that we think that they are better than we are. This woman must have a thing for successful people. No. I just want everyone to know that on this divide, everybody has something that makes them successful. So does it mean that all famous, popular, rich, and powerful people cannot be seen as successful? I haven't said that. I'm just saying that we need to stop looking at what computes at the bottom line of their accounts as the reason why we call them successful. To begin to take a critical look at their lives, to say, who is this person really? What value is this person creating? How is he creating it? Because unless all of this can come together, we cannot continue to say that people are successful. A while ago, someone reached out to me and said, that he was in the process of getting something done. He wanted to do something that he believed God told him to do. And then he had hit a snag. And the snag was that they were asking for a bribe if he would move on to the next level. And he reached out to me to fund the bribe.
Really?
And I said to him, I can't do that. I cannot do that. I can assist you to pay your house rent if I can afford it. There are many things I can do for you, but I cannot assist you to pay a bribe so that we can arrive at a goal that will make everybody think you're successful. But this is at the bottom of that success. So you see that these things don't work unless we are intentional enough to take a look at them and say, is this how it is supposed to be? Fame, for instance. There is fame, and there's something called notoriety. They mean the same thing, right? It just means that a lot of people know you. A lot of people know you. But when you begin to drill deep, you'll find that what most of us call fame is notoriety. It's people who are known or are famous for a bad quality or deed.
Yes.
Conversations are important to have because we've seen the effect of that in a generation in our country.
Yes.
We've seen the effect of that.
Right now.
We've seen people living, dying. We've seen people losing their mind because we allowed nonsense to be held as an ideal. And so parents were praying for their children to step into those rooms of an ideal when the ideal itself is rotting. Some of those parents are now nursing children who've lost their minds. So all of that fame, where did it bring us to? Do you see it?
I understand.
But if you ask in that generation and say in that industry, name 5 people who are successful, they probably will name certain people.
Yes.
But when you take a look at their lives, do you want your daughter, if they are male, would you allow your daughters marry them? For me, it's very easy to qualify success. It's really not hard. Years ago, someone, and this guy is a fantastic writer. I promise you, he is so good at writing that I knew he'll go places. I haven't heard or seen from him or seen anything from him in a long while. But this guy was such a good writer. So he reached out to me many years ago and asked me to publish one work of fiction that he did. And I said, send me the manuscript. I read the manuscript. It was like 300 pages manuscript. I read it. And it was riveting. It was intriguing. It puts you on the edge of your seat. All of those things. It was thrilling. But when I finished, I said to him, I'm sorry, I cannot publish it. He was going to pay me. I said, I cannot publish it. He was like, why?
What was that?
I like the quality of your work. I said, because this book I dare not leave it on my coffee table for my children to find.
Oh.
I will not be comfortable to put my
logo.
my logo on it. I cannot publish it. He looks at me like, you must be crazy. And I'm like, yes. He asked me, he said, does that mean you only publish Christian books? I said, no. I'll publish fiction. And I have published a couple of fiction books, novels. But this one, no. Because from the beginning to the end, it was sex, it was drugs, it was blood, it was rituals, it was this, it was that. And at the end, good did not prevail. There was no way I was going to keep that. I had impressionable teenagers in my house. Publish it, and then my son will open it. I said, no, I'm not going to do that. Now someone will be like, oh, you're burying your head under the sand. How do you know your children don't read those kinds of things? Honestly, I can't tell. But I will not be the one that bought poison with my money and brought it home.
Another immutable.
Yes, it's an immutable for me. I am not going to move. So we need to see true success and its meaning through the value of who a person is and the value that they bring. There are other things, but when we'll go on a break now. When we come back, John will ask me questions, and then we will go on.
Go on.
Don't go away, please.
In a world filled with many fears and discouragement, life often becomes a burden. For those who know the way, life is just simple. Do not worry, you're not alone on this life's journey, as Bidemi Mark-Mordi shares powerful insights and principles from her everyday work and life experiences in her book, NeverTheLess. NeverTheLess is a book designed to encourage and equip you to face life with courage, hope, and determination. Get a copy of NeverTheLess and other books written by Bidemi Mark-Mordi, like The Wisdom of the Seed, Honor, The Theology of Work, and so much more from a bookstore nearby, or call 080-905-63555, or send an email to bidemi@bidemimarkmordi.com to place your order. I guarantee you will make it. NeverTheLess.
Welcome back to the NeverTheLess show, a show for organic leaders and leaderpreneurs. And in today's episode, we have been talking about the true meaning of success. Our main speaker has helped us understand two things. First of all, it's knowing who you are and the consequent value that brings. So now she's going to continue with the conversation.
Yes, I'm going to continue this conversation. But didn't you have any questions from the previous session we've done?
For me, the main question that I've had is, how did this skewed idea of success become so popular today that we are even trying to help people see what the real definition of success is? Because I'm thinking about every young person I know out there. It's either they want to get into some form of fraud, they want to do some form of illegal stuff, to just make money big. And I'm like, our parents were not really like this from the outset. So how did people just...
The influx of media. The influx of media and the things that we held as ideals. Do you understand? They say, for instance, music. In a nation like Nigeria, we have NBC, and these are bodies that censor music. So you can't take anything on air, or you can't broadcast anything without taking it through them. But in the place where they were trying to do their work, social media, the advent of social media. Social media is free for all. So as long as it is not even if I listen to it in the confines of my house, it is not regulated by government per se. And because it's not regulated by government, things are beginning to happen that I know we're beginning to hold things up that we didn't used to hold up. But the truth is, just sitting here and thinking about it, when I think about my mother's, my mother and some of my uncles and their friends and the people that I knew, it's just a lot more now. It was always there. There was always the one person, in a season who wanted to jump the gun. There was always the one person for whom the shortcut was something. It's a human thing.
Okay.
But it's just that now, because of the advent of social media and this capacity to be influenced from different parts of the world, the capacity to regulate some things has been lost. And on top of that, even for those of us who are people of faith, even in church, rather than have pastors, we're looking for influencers and celebrities. So what makes somebody you should look up to is getting eroded and eroded and eroded.
Yes.
That's why, because really think about it, why should we be sitting here trying to redefine success? Why are we taking a whole month to tell people that, what you think success is might not be what it is?
Yes.
Do you see it?
Yes.
So that's what it is. And, no matter what we say about all regulation, it still boils down to the fact that these things are individual choices.
They're personal.
So you need to get yourself into the place where, like you said, I'm going to go home and redefine what success is for me.
Yes.
So that in the place of redefining, you can tell, is this how I want to live? Or is there something that I need to tweak?
To change.
This path that I have chosen, where is it likely to end up? Do I want to end where this path is headed? So a lot of us need to be sober and we need to be reflective on this journey. I started in the last session by saying, before we went on break, saying that the true meaning of success must include who God says you are, because success really is stability in your core, wholesomeness in your core, and then what value you bring. And I want to begin from the place of value. When we claim to be successful or describe people as successful, what value, visible value, do they add to society, or do we add to society? Beyond what benefits them and their immediate family or their cronies, in what ways is a successful man useful to me? But I'm not talking about putting something in an envelope and giving me money. I mean, just even looking at their lives, what can I learn that would help me on my journey going forward? Value. In Genesis 1:28, when the Bible was talking about, the fivefold mandate, it said, be fruitful, multiply, replenish, subdue, and take dominion. In the Amplified Classic, it said that we should use all the vast resources of the earth that God has given us to serve God and humanity. So when I'm talking about value as a pillar for success, I'm saying, are you serving God and serving humanity? A lot of us serve God, but we're not serving humanity. The others of us claim to serve humanity, but we're not serving God. Unless those parallels meet. We haven't done a good work of being successful people. The second thing for me is impact. Impact. We talked about value creation. Now we're talking about impact. I looked at the definition for impact. And impact is defined as a marked effect or influence. So if someone has impacted my life, it will show in my next behavior. It will show in my next decision. You cannot influence me and it will not affect how I do going forward. So the question is, when you say someone is successful, what's their influence like? If somebody claims to be successful and their influence is that they make everyone become addicted to drugs, how successful is that person? I am very, very careful. No matter what I do, I have a filter, and this filter is big for me. I would always ask this question: does what I'm about to do, or will what I'm about to do, break another person? Because as long as it will cause grief to another person, I need to go back. There must be another way to do it so that others will not grieve. Do you understand?
I understand.
So impact. What does what I'm doing, or how does what you are doing impact on the young man? The 10-year-old boy in church who sees you and looks at you, takes a look at your sharp suit, your tie and everything, and says, I want to be this like uncle this when I grow up. Are there things in your life that if this young boy finds out, you would have to hide or bury your head in shame? The point I'm making is, when it comes to success, let's judge ourselves before anyone judges us. What has happened is we've lost the capacity to judge ourselves. And even when men judge us, we say to them, thou shalt not judge. And we go on and we find the scripture and we know that's what we do. But honestly, if what I would do would by direct implication or indirect implication cause another person grief,
I shouldn't.
I shouldn't do it.
You know, I'd like to ask a question. You know, you said something about value. All right, like where I'm at right now, I'm able to communicate some form of value. All right. Now I'm thinking, can that happen for everybody? Do I have to maybe have an NGO? Do I need to start something? Or from my little space, I can...
That's the thing. You see, if God made it about NGOs and made it about organizations and made it about CVs and made it about profiles, then the word will not go where it's supposed to go. We don't need any of those things to add value and to influence right. We don't. Say, for instance, when I think about influence, I'll think about, I was in Form 1, my literature teacher. My literature teacher, I can't remember his surname, but his first name was, we called him Mr. Demola something. He was a youth scoffer. But that gentleman opened me up to the world of literature. Form 1. He saw quickly in me that I had the capacity not just to be able to remember things, soak them up and reproduce them. He also saw that I could command a stage. I remember the first thing he gave me to do. He gave me an 88-lined poem.
Wow.
He gave it to me on a Thursday and I had to recite it on a Saturday.
Just 2 days in between.
And he told me, I was barely 10. He told me, you can get this done. I had, up to that point, beyond my parents, I'd never had anybody say, I believe you can do this. I didn't sleep. I didn't sleep. I showed up and I had this poem memorized. And I stood on that stage and for like 15 minutes or more, I was reciting an 88-lined poem.
Wow.
And guess what happened? When I was done, it was an end of year. It was end of year. So the graduation for end of year students.
Yeah.
So their parents were in the room. Our parents were in the room. As a matter of fact, after that event, we all went back to our hostess to take our bags and go home. So my father was in the room. It was so empowering. When we finished, everybody
rousing ovation.
From that point, I knew that I could do it standing on the stage. I knew that I could do with standing on the stage, not just for the applause, but even because I saw people emotional. And I realized that God had given me a gift. And by that gift, I can set people on paths that will change their lives forever. All that I now had to do as I grew and I matured was to define how I will use that gift. Do you understand it? But somebody unlocked it on the inside of me. After that session, he also had finished youth service and he left, and I'd never seen him again.
Wow.
But imagine in my between 9 and 10-year-old brain, that name has stuck.
He has done something.
And I can remember his face. I know he'll probably be in his 70s now, but if I see him, I would recognize him.
Wow.
That's success. He may never know, although I did write him a note before he left. That you touched my life. But he may never know how far this has come. But that is what I mean by success. Do you see it?
I understand.
So when you talk about influence, so in that time, for the next 5 years till I finished secondary school and went to university, that thing influenced the course that I read.
Wow. Just that little thing. He didn't even have to have a book club. He didn't have to have anything special. Nothing. Just from where he was, he could inspire you to success.
If today now I meet him and say I have published 23 books,
I'm sure he will be marveled. He will be marveled.
Do you see that?
Yes.
But I was just this young, impressionable child that needed someone to say, I believe in you. And he was there. He didn't give me money, didn't make the clothes I wore, didn't buy me food. They never came back to say, oh, I came to check on you. How are you doing? But that one encounter sealed many things. So we almost know that, because your question was, how do I need to be able to do this? And I'm saying, just be you. That's my answer. Just be you. Just be you. Just be you. When I got called into ministry, I'd never seen a woman do this before. I'd never seen a woman do this before. But I had a pastor and a father in the Lord who said to me, I can see that in you. I know God will use you for something. He's in his 80s now, he's still alive. And I'm grateful that he got to see this come out of me. You know, so when we're talking about success, the next word I want us to think about is relevance. How relevant are you in the lives of the people? Their fathers are not relevant in their children's lives. But out there, everybody is hailing them. To what end, Biko?
Oh, wow. Okay. Now, it's now looking twofold. So, from this last example, I could, for example, be helping people out there, but the people in my own personal circle, I'm not doing anything. So such people now, what would you say? Are they successful? Are they not successful? Are they successful to some other people? How do you balance that?
I think that when we think about those kinds of people, I would ask them, at the end of your life, what would it look like? Because the way I see that we should design our lives, we should design with the end in mind. So if today were my last day and these people are gathered, what would they say about me? So if the neighbors say, oh, he's a kind man, and the wife is thinking, who is a kind man? Have you truly lived? One thing that I learned quickly, one of my mentors told me early in the days when I started ministry, was he said to me, whoever you want to be in ministry, first be that at home. Because if you are not that at home, it doesn't matter how many million people clap and say you are something, you have failed.
Wow.
And I have held that. If my husband cannot say, oh, what she does is who she is, then there is a huge problem.
Wow.
If my children can't say, I know my mother, she will not bend like this, we have a problem. So how relevant are we where it matters?
Where it matters. That's the word.
Because again, I'm not relevant to someone in Oshodi. As far as I'm concerned, yes, you can listen to the things I'm doing, you can listen to a sermon, you can do this. The people at the well are more relevant to the people at the well than someone in Oshodi who shows up once in a while.
That's correct.
Do you see that?
Yes.
So if I had time and I had energy and I wanted to prove anything, they are the ones I should be proving it to. Relevance. So to truly qualify as a success, there is a need for others to be able to point to seasons in their lives when it was your relevance in their lives, in their societies, in their organizations that crafted who they became in those seasons. Because we always say, oh, no, I'm not a leader. Every one of us is a leader. Because as long as you're going out and someone says, where are you going? As I'm going down, I say, make I follow you. You are a leader.
You have influenced them.
And if you know that it doesn't take a lot of effort to influence someone, then you know that you have to be intentional. And what we're saying when we're talking about the real meaning of success is intentionality. So the question is, are you relevant in the ways that matter? The man on whose arm the king leaned in the book of Kings had the opportunity for success on a scale he would never have had it again. All he needed to do was to believe the prophets in that moment and say, oh, king, let me take charge of administration of these things when he comes. But he waxed cynical in the moment. And he did see the stampede for food, which is something he should have avoided. And that stampede was what killed him. But he was a powerful man at that point already. Can you see it?
Power is not always success. You
cannot claim success if you are irrelevant. That's all I've been trying to say. You cannot claim success if you are irrelevant. The final thing I'd like to talk about is growth. It's not the final thing, but one of the final things. Growth. I've learned that successful people keep growing. And so if you're the same person you were 15 years ago, the only part of you that's grown is the money you have not grown. You are not successful. Because it means that you're not dynamic enough to move with the times. Because if you can't grow, you cannot cause others to grow. Cannot. So as far as I'm concerned, your success is a fluke. something happened to you. Because success, real and true success, takes a level of deliberateness and intentionality.
Let me interject here.
Yes.
You know, this conversation of growth, like you have said, there's a lot of gist on social media, growth this, growth that, growth this. For you, how would you define growth really? Like, I'm a young person, I'm trying to get my life together. How do I say I'm growing? Is it that I get promoted at work? Is it that I learn new things? What really is growth? Because I think it's a little hazy when
For
people
me,
just say growth.
true growth is that I'm better tomorrow than I was today. And it doesn't have to be in a big thing.
Okay.
That's what true growth is. It doesn't have to be in anything big. If, for instance, I used to spend 10 minutes in washing the car, and I found out that with a hose, the reason why I spend 10 minutes is I have to take the bucket to go
fetch the water.
No, but now with a hose, I can do it in 7 minutes. I've grown.
Oh, okay. So it's measurable.
It's
now it's time.
measurable.
Measurable.
Yes.
Okay.
So everyone who's talking about growth must understand that true success growth culminates in being aware of what you have, what has contributed to the success that you have. So if I say I grew, what contributed to that success? Because the point of success is that it can be replicated. You know, in church on Sundays, when I want to teach, we flash something and it says, it is better to be raised than to just grow up. That's the point. Because when you are raised and you grow, here's what happens. You know the things that made for your growth. When someone else has the gaps that you used to have, you can say to them, do A, B, C, D, and you will grow. So someone comes to me, if I go back to the example of the car, washing the car, and says, you know, the reason why I always get late to work is I spend 15 minutes washing my car. I can say to them, oh, do you have a hose that, you know, takes water straight from the tap? As like, a hose, what's that?
What am I using?
I said, okay, I'll show you.
So you're able to replicate it. You're able to show someone the steps.
That's the point. So true growth is replicated. It means you know what made you grow.
So what I'm understanding from what you have said is that growth is not just something that happens without me noticing that, I've grown. It doesn't just happen like that.
Unless you had malaria and you grew taller. And even for mothers of children, where their children just randomly have malaria, they can tell after the first 3 times. Because every time the child's trousers now are jumpers, and then their shirts are now shrinking. It looks like they are shrinking. You know that, oh, this is the cycle that my child goes through to grow. So the next time that happens, you're not overly worried. You know, this will end in growth. They actually, mothers call it a growth spot.
A growth spot.
Do you see it?
I understand.
So you must know what made you successful. And growth, you know, if you're growing, you must be able to tell me, these are the kind of things. These are the people I listen to. That's why, for instance, I don't listen to everybody. There are people, if I listen to them for 10 minutes, I can write a book of 200 pages. Wow. So I don't waste my time listening to other people. I just go there.
Tunnel vision.
Exactly. The other thing that makes for success is traceability. You know, I always say to people, success is traceable. If you cannot show me when your success was primary 3, don't show it to me when it's primary 5. Because true success is traceable.
Show your workings.
Yes, people will be able to say this exactly. So if you're a math teacher and you know a child just arrived at their answer.
How did you get here?
You want to say, work it out for me. How did you get here? Show me the steps.
Yes.
Because showing the steps means that it's ingrained in you. Traceability.
It's ingrained in you. So it happens from the inside out.
Yes. So you own it. That's why, you know, people will say to you that if you have been successful in a certain thing, you can always be successful in it. So let's say you started a business and you grew the business and one day something happened and you became bankrupt. All you need to do is take those same principles you used to grow this business in and fix them in business B. You will grow again. It will still take time, but you will grow.
It's traceable.
So we've been talking about the true meaning of success. And we've said that true success is becoming who God says you will be. And that means that, again, you must master your identity. But we've also looked at value, we've looked at impact, we've looked at growth, and we've looked at traceability. Are you able to trace where you are coming from? In the book of Joshua chapter 1, the Bible qualifies success with the word good. And that's what has always kept me recognizing that success is not just success, because there's success and there's good success. And being a person of faith, my thinking is, if I will be successful, let it be good success. Because I don't want to have gone through all that it took to arrive at something and it ends up not being good success. Do you see it?
I understand.
So these are the things we're talking about. And if God helps us, next week when we come back, we would look at even more under the consequences of success. But do you have something to say?
This episode for me has been very impactful, helping me understand that it's not just all the externalities. I must let it happen from within.
Yes.
I must let it happen from the inside. All right. It's me knowing this is who God has said that I should be, and then I am creating value based off of that.
Yes.
And another thing that I am seeing that is very important also is that knowing who God has said that I should be and creating value from that, I also need to be around the right people.
Yes.
Because you mentioned something about the kind of people you listen to. You don't just listen to just anybody and everybody.
How many hours do I have in a day that I randomly
listen to every?
No, I don't. I'm very particular about what I feed on.
And those things that you feed on, I feel that they go a very long way to help you define many times who you really
nourishment now. Even in physical life.
You're what you eat.
You are what you eat. Is that not what they tell us? Don't know why they won't let us hear what, but they tell us that we are what we eat. So even in these matters, you are what you eat. And we need to be careful. That's the point that we're making.
So how would you advise someone who wants to, let's say they've been going on the wrong track, all right, listening to all this junk, trying to do stuff that they were not born to. How would you counsel such a person to say, hey, okay, stop all of that now? And at the same time, not be stressful to them. Like, how can they readjust?
Yes. Number one, recognize that even the journey on the wrong path is learning. So there are lessons you would have distilled from going the wrong path. And then just course correct. To course correct, you need to now recognize where am I, or know where you're supposed to now be headed. So I've been going this way, I can see it's the wrong path. But I've learned a few things, even if all I've learned is how not to. But I've learned stuff. Now, if I turn around from there, where am I headed? Identify where you're supposed to be headed. And the same things you did, step by step, that brought you this
direction.
Do them.
Apply it to the right direction.
I always say to people that God's gifts in us, what God empowered us with, is value neutral. That means that if God gave you the gift of a great voice, it is value neutral. What you choose to do with it is what matters. So it's in your hands to course correct and say, I was using everything I had before negatively.
In the wrong way.
I've now decided to use it positively. This is what my positive will look like.
Wow.
Hey everyone, thank you so much. We've come to the end of this episode. I know these episodes are a bit long, but think about it. How can we talk about success and it will not be long? John has been doing a great job grilling me and soaking in quite some. If Jesus tarries, we'll be here next week and we'll be looking at the consequences of success. Remember that if you embrace your superpower, you'll become a purposeful person. Thank you for taking the time to do this with us. We'll see you next week. Remember, follow me on social media, like the stream and share it. God bless you. I'll see you next week. John?
All right. Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Nevertheless. For more information and resources, call 080-90563-555 or send an email to bidemi@bidemimark-mordi.com. Don't forget, discovering your purpose helps you live more powerfully.